If you love food or culture, you're probably already aware of Time Out. It started as a small one-sheet publication in London in the 1960s, and it's now a global media brand. In 2014, Time Out opened its first food hall in Lisbon, Portugal, and today there are Time Out markets in 9 cities. There are another 7 timeouts coming soon all over the world: Bahrain, Osaka, Budapest, Vancouver, Abu Dhabi, Riyadh, and Prague. I just came back from Montreal, where the Time Out market is inside Montreal Eaton Center. But before I went to Montreal, I wanted to get the big picture of the overall Time Out story. You're listening to Where We Buy. It's the show where we talk with retail experts and we visit the places where we buy. My name is James Cook. I research retail and real estate for JLL. Today, we are talking about Time Out Market, but you probably want to see it too, right? Well, there are video versions of many of the things that we feature on Where We Buy, including some upcoming stuff on Time Out Market. So the best place to find it all is on LinkedIn. Search for James Cook, JLL, on LinkedIn and follow me. And that'll make sure you get all of our content in your LinkedIn feed. To learn more, I jumped on a video call with Chris Ohlund. He is Group CEO of Time Out. Now, Chris is based out of London, but on the day I talked to him, he was sitting in the bar at Time Out Chicago.
Actually, sitting in Tony's bar on the 3rd floor of Time Out Chicago Market.
Well, that's awesome. So you're sitting in a bar. Well, I guess it's after. Oh, no, you're in Chicago. So it's 11:09 there. So it's a little early for a drink, probably.
Oh, sir. No. It's only Tony's bar because we named it after Tony Elliott, the founder of Time Out. My name is Chris Ohlund. I'm the group CEO of Time Out, which consists of Time Out Media and Time Out Markets, 2 different divisions, and they all roll together in the Time Out group.
And so I'm excited to talk to you today, Chris, because the Time Out brand, I think everybody's aware of it pretty much around the globe for a variety of things. I feel like I was reading Time Out long before I was eating Time Out. So we should talk a little bit about that history. So as far as Time Out is concerned, I'm aware of Time Out Lisbon, and I know about the ones in North America. How many markets are there around the world now?
We currently have 9 markets that are open. So it's Lisbon, New York, Boston, Chicago, Montreal, Dubai, Cape Town in Africa, Porto, and Barcelona. And then we have 7 more in development. Yeah, what we're trying to do is sort of to hit the top 50 cities of the world, because that's obviously where our media is being represented as well. And the combination of media and markets together bring out the special touch that Time Out brings to a food hall.
Give us a kind of a sketch of the history, the story of Time Out. Tell us a little bit more about how that all came about.
Time Out was first founded in London in 1968 by a gentleman called Tony Elliott. And he set out to write about what is the best thing that happens in London. And then he published a magazine, and that became quite successful. So it expanded its international presence. And that media part of Time Out is now represented in 333 cities across 59 countries. So he essentially built a global media empire, just talking about what the best of the city is. In 2014, the editorial staff of Lisbon came up with the idea and said, why don't we always write about what the best of Lisbon is? Why don't we just go ahead and show people what the best of Lisbon is? And they, by some coincidence, we had access to a large hall that the city of Lisbon wanted to have populated, and they didn't know exactly what to do with it. So because we knew that this was about to come onto the market, we took advantage of that and put in the best, what we considered the best up-and-coming chefs in Lisbon, the best of everyday food. So it's not just Michelin stars. That's actually the least of our concessions. Put it up in 2014, lost a little bit of money in 2014 with it. But in 2019, it was Portugal's most visited tourist attraction. It is just a complete success story because there's so much variety and there's so much excitement in there. There's life there. There's a buzz in there. And people enjoy the variety of everything that they can get to taste and feel and see and smell. It's really a culinary delight to go there.
So how did it go from that one success in Lisbon to this growing list of food halls all over the world?
Yeah, so we opened up in Lisbon in 2014, saw the huge success that we ultimately had there. And in 2016, Time Out did an IPO in London on the AIM Stock Exchange and raised some money. And we then decided that this is such a great concept that we want to expand this beyond Lisbon. You then invest into North America and opened up in Miami, New York, Boston, Chicago, moved on to Montreal and Dubai with what we call management agreements, which is essentially like a franchise agreement. We're continuing to expand this to the 9 cities that we're in today around the globe and 7 more that are signed. So we have about 16 sites in total globally.
When you're launching in a new market, talk to me a little bit about how you look at it. One of the things that I noticed, because I'm heading out to Montreal tomorrow and been looking at the menus today, and it seems very Montreal. It does not seem like this is a global brand. I know you've got Chef Paul Toussaint has a what's the word I'm looking for? A restaurant there.
Concession. That's a concession.
Yeah.
Concession vendor
there.
It, yeah.
And so many local hits, So talk me through how that can come about.
That's the benefit of having that unique combination of a media business that writes about what is the best of the city and the actual exposition, if you want, in the Time Out market, where we can actually showcase that. We have clearly Paul Toussaint in Montreal. We also have a concept called Bark in New York, which is the best-selling vendor that we have across the globe. He only had a street food van when we found him. The media people found him, and then they said, "Oh, he's got queues at his street food van, so let's go talk to him." So it's something that where the media people and talking about the best of the city can actually help them populate the market itself. And it's not that we get somebody in, they have to stay for 3 years. We get somebody in, if there's something else that's a newer concept and it works better than somebody else, then we have to go ahead and look at what is it that the consumer wants, both the locals and the tourists. So it's not just for one or the other, it's for both. And that's where the media expertise obviously comes in and helps greatly. Most other food market and food hall operators don't have the benefit of the media piece. They have to go out and scout themselves, which is very hard if you just have 1 or 2 people to rely upon, and everybody has an opinion and so on and so forth. We have experienced opinions that people read. We have a brand exposure of about 150 million a month around the globe, and we just know the city differently than most other people do.
I imagine like when you launch a market, there's probably a global team that does different market launches, but then you kind of will pass it over to local experts and probably you kind of have to be a little bit hands off because you want that local authenticity to continue, right?
Yes, we hire, the GM gets hired somewhere about 12 months before we actually open. And then that whole piece comes together with the media folks. Then we talk to the different concessions. Who do we want to have in there? Who's actually, do they want to be in there? It's not just a one-way street, of course. They have to want to do this as well. Do they want to be in there? Then we look at what kind of kitchen equipment would they need. So there's a lot more complication behind that. We have a global engineering team that then manages all the engineering companies for that market, make sure that the kitchen installations work properly. Then we work on the marketing plan, which is fairly similar. We obviously use our media exposure that we have, but it has to remain local. It has to be that local touch. That means that the local media editors, they have a great say-so in terms of what is actually coming up.
The connection with the media, is it more than just you're using them as a resource? Do the local editors actually get involved with, the food hall curation? You're going to them
Sure.
and saying, hey, we need, I don't know, we need the best chicken sandwich in the city, tell us who we should be talking to. Is that kind of how it works? I don't know.
Yeah, no, but well, first of all, they have a very close relationship, so they meet once a week between both. One of the things that we also do, because we obviously have the media piece, we've now started to install screens in all the Time Out markets So we can go ahead and showcase, what's the best thing that happens in Chicago this week? What happens in Chicago this weekend? What bands are playing? What theater shows are performing? What sports events are taking place? What are the new up-and-coming restaurants in Chicago? So we have conceptually about a 15-minute video, which, to one half speaks about what's the best thing that happens in Chicago, which we obviously take from the media business. And the media business is happy because it gets shown to all the people that come through the Chicago market. And the other half is about why are those concessions that we have in the Chicago market, what's so special about them? And we talk about them. And we explain to the consumer that comes in, why is concession ABC here in Chicago? What's his background? What has he done? There's a little bit of video behind it to sort of give that whole thing a little bit more touch and not just have them being a classic concession without any history behind it. That varies by city. So you will have some healthier concepts in some of the Mediterranean locations because that's what the locals would want. But clearly there's the interaction. I think I mentioned that with the media folks who say, look, there's obviously 250 restaurants, 350 restaurants in Barcelona that could possibly come into the realm of the time-out market in Barcelona. Now we need to drill this down to the top 20. So then we go ahead and we sit down, obviously also with some headquarter folks who will have the experience of what it takes to curate a market, what are the different food types, food cuisines that you need to integrate in order to appeal to both the locals and the tourists alike. That then could go from healthy concepts. You will always have, burger, pizza, that kind of thing, everyday food that we all like and that we all enjoy. That will always be part of it. Our best-selling item across all the markets globally is pizza margarita, believe it or not. And it doesn't matter where in the world you are. That's what people eat. You can't go wrong, so you have to have that. But, when you offer the pizza, it has to be the best pizza of the place that you're in, of the city that you're in.
And so it's interesting because I've talked to a lot of food hall operators and businesses in the US, and they are always, like, well, you got to have your coffee guy, you got to have your burger guy, like kind of what you're saying. But I imagine as you get outside of North America, there's less of that must have other than obviously the pizza and the burger.
Well, the burger, yeah, and the wrap. And, some sushi. You need to have some sushi. You need to have the healthy concept of salads. Now, what will be interesting is what we're going to do in Osaka, because that's going to be brand new. And I can't really talk about that yet.
Oh, you're killing me.
Well, you just have to come out. You will always feel local in the time-out market. It's always going to be the local feel and touch. It will never be it's a global media brand, and it may be a global food hall brand, but the experience will be local.
How do you approach the design of the market itself? Do they have a look and feel that's the same across all of them, or are you making kind of local design choices? How do you think about that?
No, there's minor variations. So we use black, white in terms of colors. We use some of the paraphernalia from the Time Out magazines from the old days and stuff like that we put up on the walls. We have a fairly standard seating arrangements in terms of wooden tables and wooden stools. And it's all social dining, so it's large tables. We started to engage with managing our data a lot better. So we now have online order. You can sit down at a table and you can just scan a QR code and the food will deliver to you. Because we found that some people, they don't want to walk around and queue up and so on and so forth. They just want to sit down, similar to a restaurant, but they want to have an enormous amount of choice. In terms of the design, it's somewhat standard. It's not 100% standard. It doesn't look like McDonald's everywhere. So it has a little bit more variation than that, yes. Again, local.
Yeah. Now, what makes for an ideal city? Because I think about a New York or a London, they have so many food halls already, so many. Whereas where I live out in the Midwest in Indianapolis, so there's not as much competition, but there's not as many consumers. So how do you balance that? Is it opportunistic? A site pops up and you say, hey, let's go? Or are you saying, hey, here's our list of cities. Let's go to city X and we're going to see if we can find a cool site. Like, how strategic are you?
If you have the globe ahead of you and you sort of look at it and you know that your capacity is currently somewhere between 4 and 8 markets a year that you can open up. What are the most interesting cities? And then you have to look at from it, this is where the media piece comes in from an advertiser perspective. What are the most interesting cities from an advertiser? So if Coca-Cola wants to bring out a new product, where would they want to launch that? And they want to do it globally with, one hit shot. Which cities would they want to be in? And there we would those are the cities that we want to be in. We used to be very opportunistic in terms of locations, but clearly, Chicago, Boston, New York is not hard. Cape Town isn't hard. We can all come up with those. Sydney, you can come up with Tokyo. Eventually, we can come up with Osaka is perhaps a little bit opportunistic because ideally, if you go to Japan, you might have wanted to start off with Tokyo before you go to Osaka. So we do it the other way around. Still, we're looking for a site in Tokyo. Then there's the whole South America piece, we're going to do in Buenos Aires, Rio de Janeiro, so on and so forth. So there's still quite a number of cities that we need to cover. We also have management agreements. So they're not just owned and operated by Time Out. So we have management agreements, which is essentially a function of a franchise agreement. So we have landlords that come to us and say, look, we know when you open up a Time Out market, you become a destination. You can help us make this place a destination. And we've had that in Dubai, for example, with Emaar. And we then go ahead and we tell them how to build it, what we have to do. We help them manage it. By doing that, we sort of help them create an environment and a destination that will be an attraction for locals and tourists alike. And then that will help propel and augment the entire area around the Time Out market. Dubai, for example, is in a shopping mall. What then happens is that the footfall increases, people go into the shops, and obviously have increased revenues and so on and so forth. So we create that footfall around the area. That's important for everybody else to succeed.
So it sounds to me like you'd most likely do a management agreement when it was like a new construction, like it was a new mixed-use project maybe where they wanted to create a destination in that project. Yes. I imagine you must get approached by a lot of developers looking to explore that.
Yes. A lot of developers, a lot of brokers, as you can imagine.
What? So it's interesting. So you bring up the business. So when you're operating the food hall, your vendors paying just percentage rents?
Yeah, they just pay a percentage. There's two different setups. One is they pay for the kitchen themselves. Then that percentage is decreased by a significant amount, as almost half. Or we fit it up completely for them. They just come in, do their magic, and then pay a certain percentage to us, and we cover everything else.
And I imagine you have a variety of levels of sophistication with your vendors, because I see some of them, they have great restaurants in the city they've operated for years, and then others are maybe coming off of a food cart or a food truck. So yeah. There's probably a big educational process for you with some of these vendors too.
They obviously need to see what it is that they have to expect. They understand they don't have to do any marketing. They don't have to do any investment into anything else beyond doing what they do best, which is cooking. And this is really what we need to go at. That's the same thing that actually sort of takes me to the media and the markets division. What is it that each one of them does best, right? So you really have the media helps attract the people, does the marketing piece for the markets, and the market operators, they know how to operate a market like nobody else. They don't need interference from outside of that. So that's how we sort of keep that separate. Do what you do best, do it locally, do it right there, and then you have somebody else for the other expertise areas where you may not be bad, but you're not going to be the best of the business ever because your core business is something else. So you just stick to your devices, do what you can do best, and we'll get somebody else to help you with the other expertise areas that you're perhaps not best at.
The next day I took a plane up north to Montreal where it was many degrees cooler. Winter is definitely in full swing in Montreal. I met up with Laurent at Montreal Eaton Center, where he is the general manager of Time Out Montreal.
Okay, I'm Laurent Ruffier-Lanche. I'm the general manager at Time Out Market in Montreal.
So this is my first time at Time Out Montreal, and just coincidentally, I'm here to celebrate the 5th anniversary with you.
Absolutely. We're going to be celebrating that actually tomorrow, that we opened 5 years to the public. So Time Out Market, it's a food and cultural market which showcase the best of the city. So for that, we welcome the best chefs of the city And we do a lot of activations related to cultural. So it can be from activation from music, from artists, from drag brunches, anything like that.
And now the food at every Time Out market is distinct. It's very local feeling here. I was walking around and I saw local chefs like Paul Toussaint that has his own restaurant. How do you think about the food? What kind of food offering do you want to have that's special for Montreal?
Well, as you know, Montreal is a very multicultural city, so we have to reflect that. So that's why Paul Toussaint, who has a Caribbean cuisine, coming from Haiti, he has to be here because, there's a strong community here, and there's so much great food from there. But we have also a lot of Asian concepts, from ramen, Vietnamese, and we do have Italian concept, obviously. And we have those classical concepts like burgers, pizzas, and pastas.
So it's a little something for everybody, but is it fair to say the food is elevated here? Like, this isn't a food court, you're getting special food
Absolutely.
here?
We don't want to be a food court, we want to be affordable for everyone, but we want to have also the best of each concept. So whenever we want to have, let's say, a burger concept, we look for the best burger in the city, or we look for the best pasta. But we have also some very well-known signature chefs like Paul Toussaint, Chantilly, who's actually on Top Chef Canada right now. He's doing a contest, and he has been also as a private chef for Justin Trudeau.
So we're part of Eaton Center. There's kind of a shopping mall all around Time Out. Do you drive traffic to the retail stores? Do people come to eat and then shop afterwards and sort of make a day of it?
Yeah, we became a destination. During the winter season, we get all the locals, people are working, above us or in the building beside us. And during weekends, we we attract all the families, all the shoppers. But it's a whole package, right? So we also get the shoppers coming to us. We get the Time Out customers going to shop after. So it's really a synergy between the two.
So this is a whole mixed-use project. We're in a downtown environment. And so 5 years ago, Time Out became the first food hall in Montreal. It was in this shopping center. Do you think there's a future where we'll see more and more food halls within shopping centers and within mixed-use projects?
Absolutely. We opened Dubai inside the shopping mall, So Montreal was the first one inside the shopping mall, but after we opened Dubai, we opened Barcelona this year inside the shopping mall again. We're going to open in 2 weeks Bahrain inside the shopping mall. This is a very good mixture, a very good concept to have both of them together.
So in the 5 years that you've been open, has the food that you've offered evolved over time? How has it changed?
Yes, it did, but mostly because of the pandemic. Because when we first opened, it was in November 2019, 4 months after the pandemic hit us. So half of the chefs sadly have to leave because they have to survive and protect the brick and mortars restaurants. But we still have very lucky to get, some chefs from the beginning. And also we like to have also the flexibility to bring new chefs. So, because this is also part of our DNA, to be able to showcase whatever new chef in the city or a new concept that people would like to have. So we have a team of editors, local editors from Time Out, who always are on the loop and searching for the best.
So being in charge of a food hall, that's an interesting career, I would imagine. What, did you think that this would be your work someday?
Wow, 5 years ago, it was the first food hall in Montreal. So it's just a brand new concept. It's still a baby, It's fantastic, to be part of this new journey, especially for Montreal, because we have such great restaurants, such a great food scene. But this kind of concepts didn't exist 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's just great to be able to bring so many people under one roof and to give them the flexibility also to choose. Because, you can bring all your friends, you can bring anyone you want, and you don't have to worry about it. Do they like this, do they like that? Everyone is doing their own menu.
I love it. We have a bunch of picky eaters. Everybody gets what they like. So you're here every day. Where's your favorite place to have lunch at?
The toughest question. It depends the day of the week.
Yeah.
You know, on a Monday, I want to start light. So maybe I will go to, for Red Tiger because they have a lovely bowl, which is very easy to eat, very healthy also. But I could go after to Blossom, who have some very nice poke bowl, and go to the Portuguese chicken from Campbell. And I love to finish my week with a pizza because, pizza, it's fantastic. And Moleskine does a very fantastic Napolitan. This pizza, it's beautiful. So, and the beauty of it is the next week I would change, because we have 15 kitchens.
It's interesting. You'll go to some food halls and they have a common kitchen. But here, you have a kitchen for every vendor. So that must make it expensive to build one of these then, I would imagine, right?
It is a big investment.
Yeah.
Because, every kitchen are fully equipped from the front to the back of the house. They have big working fridge, they have high-end kitchen equipment. So yeah, it's a big investment, but it's worth it because if you want to provide the quality to the customers, you want to provide the same quality as they will get if they go to each vendor's restaurants. It's very important to have the right equipment too.
Yeah, absolutely. Laurent, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very hungry. I feel like it's time to go. We should go eat some food, right?
Absolutely. It's the right time for that. Let's do it.
All right. Well, this is the end of the interview and let's go eat. Thank you so much.
Thank you, James.
If you like this podcast, do me a favor, go into the app that you're listening to and give us a rating. Or even better, give us a little review. Write just a sentence about what you like about the show. You can subscribe to Where We Buy on the iPhone podcast app, on Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Or you can always find us on the web at wherewebuy.show. We also post a ton of cool videos and interviews on LinkedIn and YouTube. Video tours, interviews with folks that you won't hear on this audio podcast. You can check it out by going to the website everythingweknow.show. If you have a specific question about retail, shopping centers, or retail real estate, you can feel free to connect with me and send me a message on LinkedIn. You can find me by searching for James Cook, JLL. Our theme music is Run in the Night by the Good Lords under Creative Commons license.